What's going on, everyone? Charlie here. We're going to continue on with that Webull tutorial that we started a couple weeks ago. Sorry about the delay in the new video, but we're going to pick up where we left off. And for those just joining in, where we've left off is so far we've made a class called Webull. Within this class, we have two synchronous functions. One is called getTickerID, which is the entry point to be able to work with all this data. You have to have the ticker ID to be able to get the data for each symbol. And what this ticker ID function does is it takes a symbol as an input argument, and it basically takes that symbol, utilizes the endpoint that we first got, and then converts the symbol to the correct ticker ID, at which point we can now use that for subsequent functions. So if we scroll down, we also have a secondary function, get analyst ratings, and we can see here that the first line of code underneath this function is ticker ID equals self.getTickerID symbol. And that this will have to be included underneath every subsequent function in order to do that conversion that I mentioned a second ago. So the way it works is going to be the same every time. You'll have a function definition. You'll define the ticker ID as self.getTickerID, passing in the same symbol. And then when you're ready to put your endpoint in, you just got to remember that wherever it says ticker ID equals, don't put the symbol, but put the ticker ID that you got from that first function. And other than that, what we've done is we've made a model for the analyst ratings endpoint. And what that looks like is this right here. And the purpose of this model is you can think of it as a data container for this endpoint. So essentially what this is doing is it's storing all of the data for this analyst ratings endpoint in a very nice way to allow us to work with it very, very easily in our code. And it stores all the attributes for this endpoint, which are going to be buy rating, underperform rating, strong buy rating, sell rating, hold rating. Then we've made a data dictionary and a data frame as well to give us more options to work with when we want to use this function. So we've also transposed this data frame, meaning we've flipped it vertical and horizontal, because instead of having one row of 7 or 8 columns, since this is only going to return one index of data, it would be better for the user or you to be able to look at it if it was transposed from top to bottom. And to demonstrate, I will show you how to run this real quick before we move on and add another function. So if we do this, to instantiate the Webull, we can do WB equals Webull, which is our class. And then to get the analyst ratings, we just say analysts equals WB dot get analyst ratings. And then we pass in whatever symbol we want to look at. Let's do AMD. And the reason why this model is also a really good approach is because if we wanted to print any of the data attributes within this analyst ratings model that we made, very easily done. All we got to do is print analysts, and then as soon as we hit dot, now you can see that all of the attributes that this container is holding for us are clearly visible right here. So we don't have to go looking for anything or remembering, what attributes are held within this. We easily can see them just by hitting analyst dot. And that's the purpose of the model in part. So we can choose from any of these, and I'm going to go ahead and pick data frame just for now. And we're going to just look at the output in the terminal. And you can see here that AMD has a strong buy rating of 14, a buy rating of 21, 12 hold ratings, 1 underperform, 0 sell. Now, if we wanted to print out just the buy ratings, let's say, instead of doing .df, we could just say analyst.buy. And then we could give it some context. The buy ratings for AMD are, and then we put curly brackets, and then we can print this as well, and it will give us a more specific output. So that's the reason why we have the model, so that we can easily pick and choose between whatever attribute we want to work with. If we're building a Discord scanner, or a real-time feed, or a WebSocket cluster, whatever it may be, you can work with it a lot easier this way instead of having to manually extract the attributes using list comprehension or so on and so forth. But that's basically it for the recap. Now to move on and to add on some functions to this, what we're going to do is we're going to tab over once, because remember we're in a class, and we're going to do def get short interest. That's the next one we're going to do. We're going to pass in self. Since we're in a class, we have to use self, and then symbol again as a string. And just like before, ticker ID equals self.getTickerID symbol. Now we're ready to go and grab the endpoint. And essentially every function that you use within this class is going to be structured the same way. as far as the first few lines of code. You're going to first have your ticker ID equals definition, which is going to be the same for every one. And then you're going to have your endpoint underneath that, which is going to differ from the endpoint itself, but you will define endpoint the same way each time. Now, to get the endpoint, what we're going to do, head over to webull.com/stocks or app.webull.com/stocks. And you don't have to be logged in for this. And you'll notice if you go to the stocks tab on the left-hand side here, you'll see this screen here. And basically what we're going to do is you see these categories here: news, financials, analysis, press releases, corporate actions, options, and brief. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pick the analysis tab. And then underneath the analysis tab, we see analysts, short interest, institutional holdings, order flow, and ETF weighting. So before we go any further, Control-Shift-I on Windows will open up the developer tools window. On Mac, I forget the command. It's a little bit different. You may have to Google it, but it's essentially the same process. Another way to load the tools is to go to the three dots at the top right, go to More Tools, and then go to Developer Tools. Once this is open, just make sure if it's your first time opening this, it's going to look like this with the Elements tab selected up top. Just make sure you go and click on the Network tab. This is where you're going to want to be to get the endpoints we need. And it's likely going to be on all when you first click on it. If you look under this filter box here, if you can see this, I'm going to zoom in. There's a filter box. There's all doc, JS, fetch/XHR. You're going to want to filter it by fetch. So just click fetch, and then now your endpoint results are filtered. And what you're seeing here underneath the name column, these are all of the possible endpoints that we can utilize and get data from. So what we're going to do now is we're going to simply click on short interest, and then you notice that the short interest endpoint just popped up. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this, the short interest link, and then you're going to see these windows pop up on the right-hand side. Excuse me. And what we see here, the first thing is what we need, the request URL. So we copy that over and we put it in between these two quotations, just like that. Now, where it says ticker ID, just go ahead and double click that, replace those numbers with ticker ID that we've defined previously, and we're basically ready to go. So now what we can do is we can say datas equals request.get endpoint.json. And from here, what we're going to do, to remember to get the items, very, very simple logic. All we got to do is say for items in datas, print items. And then now what we got to do is define Webull again, WB equals Webull. And then short interest equals WB.get short interest. And we're going to pass in, let's do GME for now. Why not? And from here, we don't have to put a print statement because we're going to be printing it from within the function. Let's just go ahead and run this and see what the output is and see what those items are within this. There you have it. So we can see here we clearly have a bunch of dictionaries, and the attributes that we need are settlement date, short interest, average daily share volume, and days to cover. So it's not much, it's just 4 to work with, and this will make it pretty easy to get. So if we wanted to make a short interest model for this endpoint, what we would have to do is zero off the datas like that, just to get the first index. That's going to take, instead of having all these results, it's just going to print the data attributes contained in one of them, which is what we need to make the class, because we're going to make another model just like we did for the analyst ratings, but for short interest. Now, to kind of streamline this process, since we know that analyst ratings, if we go up here, if we go up and we see that we use self dot for everything, we can actually pre-code that into our output here. So we could say print, instead of just the items, we're going to print self dot and then put items in curly brackets, just like that. And that'll save us a little bit of time and effort when we go and make our model. So let's go ahead and run this now and see what the output looks like. Okay, so you can see here that it printed out self.settlement date, self.short interest, self.average daily share volume, and self.days to cover. So now all you got to do is we're going to go back to our models folder. We're going to create a new file within this folder called shortinterest.py. And then from in this file, we're going to go ahead and make our model. And to do that, up top, we'll need to import pandas as PD for the data frame response. It's always good to have a data frame option. And we're going to do class short interest. And then we're going to do define init self datas. And then we can just simply paste those attributes from before. And to get them, all you got to do is, since this is not one response, like the analyst ratings had just one, this has multiple. So we have to do what's called list comprehension here. A little bit different than the analyst ratings that we worked with, but not too bad. So what we say is settlement date equals I.get settlement date, just like it's shown here, for I in datas, just like that. Now you can just take this, copy it, paste it over to the rest of them, double click the remaining attributes, and just paste them in, just like this. So now you can see we have everything we need right there. And to make the data dictionary, do self.data_dict equals, we'll do settlement date is settlement date. For short interest, we do self.short interest. For average volume, we'll do self.average volume. And then for days to cover, we'll do self.days to cover. And last but not least, self.as data frame equals pd.dataframe self.datadict. And that's it. We're basically done with the short interest model. So now we go back to our main function, our main program, and we can erase this now because we have our model built. And up top, we're going to go ahead and import that new model. So from models.short interest, import short interest. And we do the same thing we did for the analyst ratings. Let me make sure, actually, you know what? We need to add the ticker in because it doesn't have the ticker. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an additional argument as ticker, and then we're going to add that ticker to this dictionary here, is ticker. And there you have it. And we may need to put the index as ticker. We'll try that because ticker only has one in it. This one has multiple. So let's just do ticker like that, and we'll see if this works. Now we go back to main, and all we got to do is say data equals short interest, data's symbol, just like we did before. It's almost the same thing, right? Same exact thing. Like these two functions look the exact same. The only difference is the attributes they hold, which we store in those two models that we've made. So now we can do it just as we did before, return data, and then we can call this one more time, except this time we can do short interest dot, and then look, everything's right there, nice and neat for us. So let's go ahead and do print short interest dot data frame. And we'll go ahead and run this and see what we get for the output. Okay, so the index, I was afraid of this. So we get an error because the length of the other attributes other than the ticker is going to be 1, or I'm sorry, 23, because there's 23 returned data values for the short interest going back 23 previous short interest windows. So in order to remedy this, for now, we're just going to leave it as self.datadict, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh this and see if we can get it to work without the index. And if not, then we can append it later. Okay, perfect. So it did work. So now we have the ticker included as well with all of the short interest information. So there you have it. We just made another function, and we can clearly see here that it's all nice and neat, organized by date. So we can see the short interest for GME going dated back all the way to 2022 11/30, and the general trend is it's been basically trending around the same. It's higher than it's been within that window of time because we see here the short interest right now is about 60 million. And before it was, at the beginning, it was 54. So that's the highest we've seen other than 1/13/2023 when we saw 60 million short interest. But now we're at 59, pretty close to the high within this window. But yeah, that's basically it. We just made a new function, very easily done. And now you can use this at your own discretion, however you need to. But let me show you. I already have this whole thing finished. So let me make a new file real quick and just demonstrate. If you install the fudstop package that I've made, let's just do test.py, and you can literally import this, right? So from fudstop.apis, I have everything here you could think of. Let's do Webull trading, import Webull trading. This will work the same way on your machine as long as you have this package. We can say trading equals Webull trading. And I believe I made this asynchronous, so it's going to work a little bit different. We have to do import asyncio, and then we have to define a main function, async def main. And then basically what we can do here is if you just do trading dot, these are all of your functions you can work with. So anything with a purple box is a function that you can work with. So if we wanted to do the income statement, put that in parentheses, do symbol equals, do Apple, limit, we want the last 4 income statements. And we have to do await since it is asynchronous. So we'll do income equals await trading.income statement. And then I've set everything up with modeling. So if you do income dot, then you can have all these financial attributes to work with. And we'll build this one in the next video. But I just wanted to show you, for those of you that are a little bit more experienced, I already have the full package built that you can go and immediately start working with. Again, no API key required for this. You don't have to be logged in to use it. Some of the endpoints will require a headers argument to get some of the more advanced data like news and options. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much all ready to go. You can just use dot notation, pick the attributes you want, or the data frame. So I have a data frame option as well, included in all these. So the way we would run this is we simply just do asyncio.run main. And then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to run and debug it. See what we get back. And then voila, we have a nice and neat data frame of the financial information for Apple going back to the last 4 earnings reports for their income statement. Now, what if I wanted to do multiple tickers, right? Asynchronously and concurrently? Well, to do that, I also have this set up as well. So from fudstop.listsets.tickerlist import most active tickers. And then what we're going to do here, this is kind of a bonus section of this video, is I'm going to say this. I'm going to erase asyncio.run main. I'm going to erase this apple. I'm going to put symbol equals symbol. Limit's going to be 1 for now. And we're going to pass in a symbol to main. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do async def run main. And we're not going to pass in anything here. And then what we're going to do is tasks equals. And then in brackets, we're going to say main I for I in most active tickers. And we're going to say await asyncio.gather tasks, just like that. And now what we're going to do is simply asyncio.run, run main. And what this is going to do is it's going to asynchronously and concurrently get the income statements for all of the most active tickers, which is a list of about 350 to 400 tickers. So instead of printing the income.data frame, we're going to return income.datadict. Actually, let's do the data frame. Why not? And we're going to run this, and let's see what happens. Power of asynchronous concurrent code. Let's see what we get back. It's going to take a minute to load up, but when it does, it should very quickly go through this large list of tickers and get the information. Oh, you know what? We need to actually do a try except because there are some ETFs in there, and ETFs do not report earnings. So to handle this, we do try and except exception as E, print E. And then we're going to go ahead and refresh this now, and it should work for us. Okay, so we're getting just the word data back. So let's see what's going on here. Income.df, let's do 2. Income dot depreciation and amortization. Let's see that. I could be hitting their rate limits too. Oh, you know what? I'm probably hitting their rate limits. Yeah, because it's just getting us key error for data there. That's funny. I'm probably hitting their rate limits. But you can see it's very, very quickly going through and getting all that information. So anyways, that's what I have for you. It was an attempt, a quick edit real quick. So I wanted to give you the output of that concurrent function. So the problem was I didn't have anything printed right here. So if we run this again, with the data frame actually printing, it'll actually show you the results. So let's go ahead and look at concurrent processing of over 350 tickers for earnings income statement. And there you have it. This is how you do it, folks. This is how you scan the whole market really quickly and get a bunch of data for it. So what we just did is we just scanned, 350 to 400 tickers, and we're about at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds. So about 20 seconds, we accumulated all of the data we wanted to for financial earnings data very, very quickly using concurrency. So hope you all enjoyed this one. And now you have short interest and analyst ratings to work with. And again, if you wanted to import and install the FUDStop package, you have even more to work with. So y'all have a good one.